Welcome back to Breaking BizDev, the podcast that beats up, breaks down, and redefines business development for the professional services firms of tomorrow. I'm your host today, John Tyreman, and I am joined by a friend and colleague, a fellow Virginia native, but you're coming in from Colorado, Brendan Reece, founder of Mosaic Consulting Group. Brendan, welcome to the Breaking BizDev podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what led you to founding Mosaic Consulting Group. So you do AI automation, custom agents, and marketing strategy for businesses. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
We're really focused on helping small and mid-sized businesses integrate AI into their day-to-day operations through executive workshops, training your team, agent building, and really road mapping what that AI portfolio looks like so you can get that long-term success. I think the largest point that I guess I can underline here is that what I've found is that most firms don't have a talent or a technology problem. They have a leverage problem when it comes to AI. And that's really why I launched my business, is to help solve that. Because at the end of the day, with the advent of AI and it's continuing to kind of evolve and get stronger and stronger, that doesn't change what businesses need to get done. It changes who should be getting that work done. And I've watched firms throughout my career, really having their operations and the value they drive rely on, a single person's memory or manual follow-ups or inconsistent outreach in the way we actually get work done, or straight up guessing and hoping for the best. And obviously with the kind of the advent of AI, and that is making that kind of model very fragile. So I'm on a mission to kind of help solve that in the professional services space.
Brendan, I think we were kind of planning for this conversation a little bit, and you shared that you were doing some research on AI maturity and adoption among different sizes of businesses. And I thought that your kind of takeaways from that research was pretty insightful. Can you share with our listeners what you found when you did that kind of research?
Yeah, absolutely. I think to really underline it is that AI adoption is growing across all business sizes, from your small company to your enterprise level, but the way it's being utilized is radically different across, these different business types. Your enterprise teams, they're doing some pretty complex stuff. Oftentimes they're hiring entire AI teams to develop their own custom solutions in-house. They are, very closely tied in with the direction of the business, so that what they're investing in and working on the AI front is really actually driving that business growth down the line. That changes as you start to kind of move down market a little bit. Your small and your mid-sized organizations, they have the hunger and the desire to adopt AI to kind of reap the benefits of the efficiency that you can drive in terms of hour savings, but also the reduction in error rate for client-facing material, the cost savings in some cases. How can we augment our team, not replace our team, but augment our team and make them more efficient, help them get more done with the help of custom AI agents and things like that. But I think another very important piece I found, and this really spans your single member LLC all the way through enterprise in a lot of cases, is that AI implementation without a concrete and well thought out strategy behind it is destined to not have that long runway or that longevity that these organizations are looking for. And that ROI begins to suffer. So that was really interesting in terms of that AI readiness, that AI maturity of the organization is very, very important to actually drive that long-term success. So pilots are great. We should absolutely start to test different tools, either third-party out-of-the-box tools or custom solutions. But it's very important to think through, how does this actually tie back to where our business needs to go in the next 1, 3, 5 years? Is our team, the talent and the expertise we have, ready to actually adopt systems like this? Are they trained on it? Are they open-minded to it? Are they actually going to follow the guardrails put in place? And then also very importantly is your data and infrastructure. Do you have clean data to actually feed systems like this? Data is the fuel to AI systems, and just like your car, if you put bad fuel in, you're going to get a bad output. So it's very important that we're taking time to make sure that data and infrastructure is set up in a way that is actually going to going to provide good fuel to the AI system in the first place.
Brendan, I know that there's a lot of use cases for AI, especially within operations, human resources. But on this podcast, we're specifically focused on sales and marketing, business development. What do you, from your perspective, believe is broken about the way that firms are going about sales and marketing today?
Yeah, to really kind of focus in on the business development piece, because I think that's an area that is broken today, is really in kind of a transitional phase, because business development in professional services, I would say, is built more like a craft than a system. And what I mean by that, it's very relationship heavy. It's typically partner or founder led, highly manual, oftentimes unmeasured, and it's oftentimes done different every single time with every single customer. And that worked in the past when attention was scarce and competition was local, but that model fails in a world of kind of infinite content that AI is now enabling sales teams to use, and compressed trust cycles where that buying journey has radically changed over the past several years. And it's very important that BD teams are building an operating system versus a craft to actually generate business, fill their pipeline, and grow their organizations.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. So instead of creating bespoke solutions, you're saying that that's broken because now competition isn't so locally focused. You're competing against people all over the country, all over the world. So I guess how can AI give smaller firms an advantage in sales and marketing? Let's explore some examples and use cases.
Yeah. So the way that I think about it, and this is kind of common saying, but people buy from people. So when I'm looking at an organization and helping them understand where does and doesn't AI fit with us, it's let's think about those areas. Let's use business development here, that we know we need people. If our customers are buying based on relationship, if we're in an industry like that, and we need people engaging with people, we should be looking at AI and kind of through a lens of how do we free our people up to talk to more other people? How do we keep that human element as kind of our closer, I guess, for lack of better terms? But something has to give, because that your sales reps have a full-time job, your BDT has a full-time job. It's full of things, including that kind of face-to-face interaction. Let's start to look at the aspects of how they get work done and deliver value that are not related to them face-to-face with a potential customer. Those are prime real estate, I think, to start to look at automation, because you then get in a point where, all right, rather than, ask our BD team to continue to push harder and harder and longer hours, it's let's figure out where they're spending their time that we would rather them not. That might be in lead identification and sourcing. That might be, a custom agent that is handling your CRM cleanliness and your lead follow-up for you, kind of based on email templates that we provide, but it can, then kind of conduct that research on the prospect and put out very dynamic email content, for example. Those are two areas that I think about, hey, if I want my BD team to be focused on building human relationships and closing deals like that, let's look upstream a little bit at how they get work done and figure out the aspects that happen before they're on the phone with somebody that makes sense for us to begin to look at automation. So some of the most common instances that I find are definitely in the lead sourcing, lead qualification. If you've got a clear ICP with clear criteria of who is and who isn't a client or a customer, that's going to be perfect to be able to run through an AI system. And, you can use a third-party tool like Appify, for example, to actually scrape LinkedIn or scrape the web to start to identify some of these people within your ICP. The same agent can then go ahead and kind of conduct that personal research on them. Let's scrape their LinkedIn account. Let's understand who they are, what they post about, where they went to school, who they're connected with, whatever it might be, and start to combine some of those variables agent side, so that agent can start to handle either your drafting or even all the way through sending of that kind of sequenced outreach. And, every CRM has kind of that automation capability. Most of them lack, in my experience, that research, that truly kind of customizable way of doing things. So you start to think about how can we connect research agents like that into our CRM, mesh that data, and automate that type of work so that our team can just focus on building relationships and and ultimately bringing on new business.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Okay. So research, list building, prospecting, those kinds of like upstream activities. And then the other example that I heard was on the automation side. So it seems like we're talking about two different things. I heard you talk about like AI and then like agentic automation. So I just want like for our listeners to understand like what's the difference between generative AI and automation and how do they work together?
Yeah, great question. So I would actually frame this in a slightly different way in terms of let's look at automation versus agents, automated workflows versus
Okay.
agentic workflows, because one of them, agentic workflows, is AI native. An agent is essentially just it's a bot that is connected to an LLM and has a system prompt, which I call it soul. That system prompt on an agent is, this is who you are. This is how you do your job. It's all of that context that you would give an employee when you're onboarding them, but you give that context to your agent. You then connect that agent to an LLM of your choice. Really all of them are open in terms of API. So we can connect to Gemini. We can connect to ChatGPT 5.2, which is the newest version there. You can make that selection based on cost as well as quality. What are you looking to do here? And it takes some testing, but an agent is it's a piece of a workflow that is connected into an LLM, a large language model like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, and has a system prompt, or what I call it soul, so that it knows exactly how to do a job. So the difference there between an agent and an automated workflow. An automated workflow is something where, let's say that you look at your organization and there's a process that you follow where information travels from point A to point B, and a human is the one taking it through those steps. An automated workflow is breaking down that process into its unique pieces and automating the areas that don't need human intervention. It might be cleaning of spreadsheets. It might be dropping a lead that came in our web form into our CRM if you don't have that automated. Things like that, where it's more simple, point A to point B. There's not critical thinking involved. That's going to be a great use case for an automated workflow. So for that, it's let's say that you've built a custom form on your site that does not tie into your CRM for some reason. All of those leads coming through are going to a spreadsheet that you then have to manually take into your CRM. Great use case for an automated workflow where you can have a system go through and read either that form or that sheet where those are stored and place them and tag them correctly in your CRM. An agent would come into that, where let's think about that same process where lead comes in, is dropped into CRM. An agent would be added into that automated workflow if before dropping in your CRM, want to fill in some of that unique information about that lead. So you have kind of a fully filled out lead form in your CRM, and then have that agent start to craft custom messaging for that person. So really the difference between the two of them is, obviously an agent is connected to an LLM, so it can critically think and it can create. And that's useful in a lot of use cases. But I would say with today's technology, we should always have humans in the loop. Have a human review the output of an agent, because they still hallucinate. Your system prompt could always be tighter. An automated workflow, much more simple, much lower risk. Let's get information from A to B without a human involved.
Okay. So what's, I guess, like for the smaller, maybe like solo consultants and smaller firms out there, like where do they get started with this? What's like the first step to integrating either, I guess, agentic workflows into their business or into their business development efforts?
Yeah. So there's a couple very popular tools, and two of them I would say are great for kind of our first step. We're going to try to get our hands dirty with this in-house. Make.com and Lindy are two automation platforms that are very, very low on the technical spectrum. You don't have to be technical to use them well. You'll kind of build them with common language. It's very straightforward. That's a great way for small shops or business owners who are curious, but maybe not really ready to invest, into full custom systems, might want to try to build it themselves. I would recommend starting there, because they've got, hundreds, if not thousands of different integrations that you can build. You're building it in common language, no code. So I would recommend make.com or Lindy if you're kind of in that bucket. I primarily use one called N8N. More technical option, but a lot more flexibility and kind of transparency involved in it, meaning I can really make it do anything that I want it to do. I don't have to rely fully on whether the system has built in the capability to connect with Service Titan or HubSpot or whatever my CRM is, for example. So N8N, you get a lot more flexibility. It does take some more technical knowledge. There's a little bit more of a learning curve involved, but you can do much. You can really build much more complex systems on a system, on something like that. And again, I didn't come into this as a developer myself or an engineer. I wasn't trained in that. I learned it over time, and this is where I think the magic of AI is today. Is that I used ChatGPT, Gemini to teach me how to think in these development systems like I needed to think through on N8N. And oftentimes I'll say, I can kind of take my workflow and drop it into the model of my choice and say, I'm trying to build this. I'm stuck here. What have I done wrong? Where's the code that we wrote together wrong? And you can use AI to help you build like that without you having to be an engineer or a developer yourself.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing those platforms and kind of like a starter option. But then if you want to get a little bit more involved, well, great, Brendan. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I think just kind of a little bit of a taste of your expertise. If folks wanted to connect with you and learn more about agentic workflows, how they can incorporate that into their business development motions, where can they find you?
LinkedIn primarily. So Brendan Reece on LinkedIn. You'll know it's me because my header is a big Mosaic Consulting Group picture. Connect with me. Drop me a DM if you have questions. Happy to teach, train, walk you through, help you decide the right way, and to actually go about integrating AI into your business.
Excellent. Well, folks out there, connect with Brendan on LinkedIn and check out Mosaic Consulting Group, mosaicstrategy.co. Brendan, this has been a pleasure, and thank you so much for sharing your insights on Breaking BizDev.
Great. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.